Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S WORLD. Today, I'll be sharing with you more information I've received from a source during my last BQH hypnosis session. And I'm going to read from a transcript of the session. And the specific section we'll be talking about today is dreams. As you know, if you've watched my previous sessions, I get a lot of information from dreams. And I know that my dreams have changed. The theme has changed over the past several weeks and months, and this helps me keep track of what we're working on. So I'm going to be sharing this with you. And when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who's asking me the questions I prepared for the session. And then when I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, meaning that the answers are coming from source. All right, let's jump in. Lorrayne, this dream is from 11/22/23, so November 22nd of last year. I had a dream in which I was part of a group of people and we're traveling from place to place as if we were a team that competed in something. During one of those stops, I was performing some tasks that were part of my match and that I had to finish. I was counting what looked like pucks one at a time, and I still had one to go. It was taking a very long time, and I felt the pressure to be done because my mom, who was my trainer, was waiting for me. I really didn't want to take even longer than it was already taking, so I found an excuse to stop short of finishing. I hinted that this one guy who was also on the team and who I liked as a person had assaulted me. I figured that if I didn't spell out what had happened, I wouldn't have to confront him and he would have no clue. So I implied it and kept going. But the problem was that I had caused my mother pain since she was sad about what had supposedly happened to me. On top of that, I couldn't even hang out with this guy anymore, who was really nice. I felt horrible for lying, and now I was also afraid that my mom would confront him and the truth would come out. So here are my questions about this dream. Question 1. It looks like we only have one thing left to do, whereas it used to be two, the recall and the takedown. Are we still having the recall? Question 2. It looks like we can shortcut this process, but then I feel bad about it. Is this why we are staying? And will we be able to change the process and make it shorter and skip some steps? So this is source. So in terms of the two things left to do that now are one, yes, we already said we're kind of past the recall. Now, let's wait to answer the second part of the question, basically referring to the second part of the dream where we say, yeah, we could move on. We one excuse or the other. It's saying, okay, we've done what we needed to do and now it's time to go. And if you notice, it says my mom is waiting for me because she is. She's on an alien planet and she's waiting, just like many of our loved ones, they're waiting for us. So I'm finding a way to get out faster, a shortcut. So could I do it? Yes, but as you see, it leaves a mess behind. It causes concern, even in my mother, because really we've achieved nothing, right, in their eyes. We go back and they say, well, why were you there so long? And we're like, we're just there. And then, nothing happened because they don't have this information. So we're not showing like, oh yeah, we had the recall. Look, we changed everything. We fought and won. The explanation from a 3D perspective, basically. So is it possible? Yes. This is why Clea's had all these dreams about now only missing one thing. Because truly the energy, everything that had to be done, the project that was going to culminate in the recall is finished. And again, if you're wondering, so why have we not had the recall? It's because we really don't need to have it. No, we decided we're going to have it. Again, this is why I answered the second part first, because otherwise we're leaving stuff sloppy. We didn't quite finish what we planned. Because again, the purpose of this project was to change everything. We have done it. But the piece, the visible piece, which was the recall, that was going to be our sign that we have done everything that we needed to do. And we're completed the project, which we have. The sign was going to be like almost putting your flag down, was going to be this recall. Because the recall doesn't mean anything, but from a 3D and 3D-like perspective, it can be seen as, oh, this was the culmination. Therefore, this is the thing that represents, we beat the dark. Whatever they're going to interpret it as at a 3D level. And so that's why we could skip it. But you see, when in the dream we skip doing things the right way, it caused a mess. And so now I'm feeling bad. And this is why we're still here. And we still know that it's going to happen. This is what we intend to have, but we're not hanging on to that like it's going to make a difference for us. It is no longer going to make a difference for us. This is the biggest difference that we try to communicate today. We used to think of the recall as finally, this is it, like it was a thing. We don't feel that way anymore. Whether it happens or doesn't happen makes no difference to us, but we know that it will make a difference to other people. That's why we're going to still get it done. Right now, we still want to get it done for that purpose. Not really because it is a big deal for us, but we don't need to. Yes, we could have done this in other ways. We could have used shortcuts. We could be out in a second. Like we've been saying, we could have gone at any time. But right now, we feel like things have come together. We now start seeing what we saw from the beginning, which is you will not even believe the difference you have made. We start experiencing that difference in ourselves. Lorrayne, thank you. This dream is from 11/27/23, so November 27th of last year. First scene. In this dream, I woke up and realized that we were supposed to leave to go on a field trip. It was 10:15 a.m., but I didn't know when the bus was going to leave. I figured it was early enough that I hadn't missed it. I went looking for the group of girls in the other rooms of this house who were going to leave as well, including my cousin. And most of them were still sleeping, with the exception of one or two who were reading a book in bed without making noise while waiting for the others to wake up, as they were in no hurry. I woke up my cousin and asked her what time we were supposed to leave. She said 10:45, and I thought, great, I haven't missed it, because it was now 10:30 and I would only need 15 minutes to pack. Somehow, I didn't know the details of all of this, but I was glad I was going to be able to leave with them. Second scene. I was preparing a list of things for school for my son, Antonio, who was about 6 years old. The teachers had asked parents to give a list of items to the children for some kind of activity they were working on. I had not seen the list, so I was guessing at the items that were needed. My child would tell me he needed a book, and I had no idea which one, so I just picked one I thought would work. Then the children went to school, and I saw my mother, who was one of the teachers, hold my son in her lap and go through the list of things I'd given him. She looked at the book, which was titled Neria, and the book was written in 2039, as if it was a school manual meant for that year. We were not in 2039. It was a few years earlier, like 2034 or so. But I thought, at least the book wasn't for 2045, which it could have been, since that was the farthest year already available. My mother was not impressed. Then she called out another item from the list and looked at it, also unimpressed, as if I had not done the exercise as well as she would have liked me to. I also realized I could have done better, but I told her that I had not seen the list, so I had been guessing at it. And this is my question. What's up with us not knowing the details, not being well prepared for the events happening in the dreams? And what about the 2039 versus 2045 dates in the Neria reference? Me. Yeah, so the two themes are related, but really, we'll answer them separately because Clea put them together thinking they were referring to the same thing, but they're actually different aspects of the same thing. So we'll just split them. The first dream refers to the fact that the 10:45 departure obviously refers to the takedown, meaning I'm still in time for the takedown, meaning the takedown is still going to happen. And it's not too far from now, okay? And we know this. It is 10:30 and I have time to pack, etc., etc. And why don't I know the details? It's exactly what we've been talking about basically throughout the session today. We never know what's going to happen. That's why. It's our intention. So we go with the flow as we're living through an experience, a project. And depending on how we feel, what we intend, that's how long it will take. So right now, we don't know the details because there are no details. We've not been able to tell you after the takedown. We've not been able to share a timeline with you because look at us, we're ebbing and flowing. So that is the reason why. How come I didn't have details? That is why. But the point is, we are not late for the takedown. The takedown will happen when we're ready. And again, in the dream, that looks like I will be packed, so it's all good. Then we have the second dream where Antonio is actually in real life, in 3D life, is Clea's brother. And actually her mother and her brother Antonio are on an alien planet. And so of course the mother, her mother, is unimpressed because Clea is not. The book is from 2039. So basically she's not happy with the fact that Clea is not going to be there, according to the dream, until 2039. Now keep in mind that these are not actual dates. So don't think we're going to be here until 2039. It's just to give an idea of the fact that it's a time that's not right now. It's still far away. Now, why is that? Because the original takedown plan was for us to all leave at the same time. So by now, Clea would have gone to visit her loved ones, her family on the alien planet. Meanwhile, this hasn't happened. But Clea is saying, well, at least it's not too far from now because it could be 2045 and we're already 2034. So it's not as far as it could be. But what is Clea's excuse? I'm sorry, I didn't have the details. Again, same theme as the first dream. I didn't have the details, which really means I don't know how long this is going to take. And why don't I know how long it's going to take? Because again, we are going with the flow. We don't have a timeline. We didn't say we're going to leave here by this date. That was not our agreement. Our agreement was, let's do this project and let's wait for everybody to integrate, which we have. And then, we'll go from there. And so that is the explanation for the second dream. The named area doesn't mean anything. It was more about the time sequence or distance. The feeling that Clea had in terms of the time difference between now and when we're going to be leaving, which my feeling was that it's a lot closer than we think it is, and it could have been a lot worse, and it felt close. And again, even in the dream, it's not many years. And this is why we keep saying it's not a matter of what the date means, because in the first dream, we're talking about minutes. We're leaving in 15 minutes. And in the second dream, we're leaving in 5 years. So the time references don't mean anything. It's just a matter of, is it a long time or a short time? 15 minutes clearly is a short time. And in the second dream, also it was a short time compared to what it could have been, because it could have been 2045. That's all that means. This is how we interpret dates and time in dreams. Lorrayne, thank you. Okay. Claire has asked me to read these two separate dreams together because she believes they're related, same as in the last case. All right, so first dream from November 30th of last year. There were two different scenes in which a product or process was basically finished, except for this one tiny little thing I was doing in the end that barely even made any difference in the quality of the product, meaning we could have done without. And this is my comment to this question. It looks like there is no point to us being here any longer, that it makes no difference if we do this last thing or not. Now, the next scene. I was in an old city like Rome, and there were people rebuilding some ruins by using wood that was carved to look like stones. I was glad they were doing it because it looked better, and they were at least doing something. But I told them that wood would not last. I was thinking it's better than nothing, but still not making a big difference long term. And this is the second dream from December 14th of last year. Along the same lines, I dream almost every day about where we are in terms of our project here. The images differ, so it's a different analogy every day, but the theme is recurring. I've been following a fine art conservator on YouTube. So 2 nights ago, this theme looked like me working with him on cleaning some old linen canvases. The first one was very slow going and it took forever, but we're kind of flying through the other ones, and we only had 3 left to do out of a group of about 10 by the time I woke up. And here's Maxie saying hi. While I appreciate the status update, it doesn't offer me any new information because I already know we're almost at the end. But we still have something to do, which could take any amount of time to do. So nothing new here. However, this morning, for the first time ever, I dreamed that I was working with this conservator again, and we were restoring these pieces of old wood in a kitchen. We had done many, but there was one left. And I was so bored by the entire process that I walked away and decided that I would not do the last one. I would leave it like it was because there was really no need to finish it and it was too boring. What does all of this mean? Can we just go now without having to finish the project? And here is source. Me. Yes, so just to answer the last part, again, we're referring to the fact that we don't need to have the recall anymore. We still believe we're going to have it again, but not for us. We don't need to have it anymore. We could go right now. We're not going to go right now because now we are experiencing something new and we might decide to just make the recall happen, tucked up and then go, because it is nothing. And we always said it's nothing. It's a nothing thing for us to do this. So yes, that's what these dreams are referring to. Really, the only thing we have left is the takedown. We don't need to do anything else. The project has been completed. So that's the new. That's what has become new in the last few months. Because again, the resistance is gone. So that's the new part. And then the second scene of the first dream that had to do with Rome, and the reason Clea left it in there was because she realizes, and I'm just letting you know, has to do with the fact that we are barely keeping reality looking a sort of way. In reality, it's not the same as before. So the example was Rome. The stuff we're putting together is not made of stone. It's not going to stand the test of centuries. This is stuff that's going to rot in 15, 20 years. But right now, it makes it look like the place looks like it was before, which we know is not the case. And this refers to everything we've been talking about in terms of keeping this reality looking the same, but it's not the same, not even in the same order of magnitude as the same. And what was the first dream about? It was something about the first scene. Lorrayne, 2 different scenes with a product or process. Me. Yes, one thing left. Yeah, again, it's just like in the second dream where basically it doesn't matter. We don't have to finish. We don't have to do anything. We have accomplished what we wanted to feel and accomplish by staying here over time. We've done that. We have accomplished that. The only reason we're staying here a bit longer, as I mentioned, is because this is actually a surprise. We're actually enjoying something. And it will make it easier for us when we are on New Earth emotionally to cope with, of course, the fact that it will be hard to realize what's happened here. And we already said, no matter what, we'll miss this planet. And we will be sad about what has happened. And so one of the things that will give us joy, it will give us some comfort is that, look, it could have been beautiful. And it was beautiful, at least to some extent in the end. We did find peace. So it wasn't that this planet is bad or has been bad. It really is how we set up the systems. So this will actually, everything we are experiencing will help us once we're on New Earth. Lorrayne. Okay, dream from 12 to 2023. So this was last December. We were living our normal lives, but suddenly a group of us was transported into a city that looked different and where all the buildings were clean and new, where there was no traffic and the city seemed empty. We were wondering where we were, and I realized that this was our last day on Earth. So we had been moved to this new place in preparation for going to New Earth. I said, this is New Earth, but I immediately qualified my statement by saying, well, this is not New Earth yet, but it is the feeling of New Earth. And that's why we're here, because we're getting ready to leave today. We were lighthearted and started walking down the main road. We walked into a hotel and sat down in a coffee shop. I went to the bathroom and then saw a door that led to an apartment and realized I owned the apartment. And suddenly my family was with me, my parents, brother, and a friend. We felt good we owned an apartment. It gave us a sense of security and accomplishment. We were hanging out, just passing time in the apartment for a while. But then I went back to the table in the coffee shop and saw that one of my friends had left already, and another one was getting ready to leave. There was a piece of paper on the table, and there were 3 slots for leaving that day. The picture of the first friend who had left was in the first one. The other girl was in the second photo, and I was in the third photo. After my photo, there was a blank square because I was the last to leave and nobody was left after that. My second friend went outside and I followed her and found her in a car getting ready to leave. I asked her where they were taking her, and she said they were going back to her office because that's where she was leaving from, as if we're all supposed to leave from certain locations specific to us. I was happy for her and happy for me, knowing the time to leave was getting nearer. I was trying to figure out how long this would take, and she said that the girl before her had left 3 hours ago, and she was leaving now. So I figured I would also leave in a few hours. Then the scene changed, where I saw this group of about 10 people, mostly girls. My friend was one of them, in an open car with many more seats than a normal car. But it was a car, and someone was driving. It was this girl who was very shy and somewhat socially awkward. And there was a boy sitting next to her, taunting her, saying he wanted to kiss her. But she was not into these flirtatious games. He set up a dare for her that had to do with reaching a little puddle in the road a little ahead. She was annoyed by him, but wasn't willing to be ridiculed. So in her determination to win, she swerved and they all crashed and died. I saw their bodies scattered on the road. She had also been thrown out of the car and flew onto the ground, ending up with her hand in a tiny, shallow puddle. I saw her smile and then stop moving with her eyes still open and the smile frozen on her face. I thought to myself, she is happy, but she can't be dead. We're going to New Earth and nothing is going to happen to us physically until we do. But she looked dead. How could this be? And what does this dream mean? Me. So we'll go in order here. The first dream clearly, or the first scene clearly refers to, again, it kind of spells it out, and it should be clear in light of what we discussed all day. That is the feeling of New Earth. That's what we're living through now. We have moved into this new city, quote unquote, meaning this new place that just looks like the old one, but it's not anything like the old one. In fact, it's empty. First of all, there's only 3.5 million of us, and it's new because we are changing it. And so that's why in the dream, Clea says this is New Earth, or, well, it's the feeling of New Earth. And that's what we just described. We've been describing the fact that we are already flexing our muscles in intending certain things to change in our reality. And it is very much what we'll be doing on New Earth. Now, the second part that had to do with the 3 slots, basically to have these 3 slots of times to leave, it's a little bit similar to the previous dream that we discussed prior to these ones, when we said, I woke up at 10:15 and then it was 10:30, but we were supposed to leave at 10:45. So then in this case, we have 3-hour differences between people leaving. because again, we said time doesn't really matter. So in this case, it was hours. But it still says I'm the last to leave because, of course, I'm one of the light workers. So we need to do cleanup. We're the ones doing the actual physical takedown. But it's also, we're there, basically. I'm next in line to leave. We're almost done here. Everybody else has left or is getting ready to leave, like the second person. And so it's happening. It's happening soon. And again, when we say soon, time does not matter. It's our intention that matters. But we already know we're not going to be here forever. I think at this point we feel it as well. And then the third dream that had to do with this kind of gruesome scene. First of all, Clea's thinking these people were going to go to New Earth. How come they are dead? Now, these people were not going to go to New Earth. They have left. But what this dream was referring to was the game we played here. We could have been happy. We could have been having a great time. But because of these silly games that we've been playing, you know, in Clea's view, in her thinking about this dream, these silly games, like this guy's just taunting her because of pride, she doesn't want to be made fun of. So all of a sudden, she has to prove herself, and these are the consequences. This is ego games we played on this planet, and there is no judgment when I say ego. I know a lot of people think of ego as over pride, arrogance, whatever. We're just trying to explain how things have worked here, that because of these little silly things, that in hindsight, you're like, well, it wasn't worth it. Now all these people died, but she was happy because she proved that she won. In fact, she had her hand, as she's dying, she's smiling because she proved that she took the dare and she won. She has her fingers in the small puddle that wasn't even a puddle. It was literally like a tiny little area with water, but it didn't matter. The reality of things, meaningful things, didn't matter. It was more of a show. Everything here has been a show in a game where you're like, well, was it really worth what we've been through for these games? And of course, that's a matter of judgment. But at the end of the day, it really is where you look back and you're like, well, I mean, but that wasn't really worth it, was it? And this is where we'll get to where we'll be like, it is what it is. You can't change it. It happened. But in hindsight, that was not a good thing. And we don't mean good. You know this by now. We don't mean good as in good and bad. It wasn't a fun thing. It wasn't something that you would want to do again, knowing that this is what can happen. It's like, how about we just have fun, right? And so that's what that dream was referring to. So yeah, she still died because they're gone. Not because she died and it was a dire thing, but really what happened was more of a representation of how we have run this planet. And so yeah, nothing's happened obviously to my friend, but yes, all the friends, the vast majority of Clea's friends are gone, and they've gone to 3D chambers. So she's not going to see him again. So the desolation that she felt in the dream is very real. And the desolation in this dream was very real. I still feel it. It just felt so wasteful. Like we created a wasteland because of silly games that made absolutely no difference. And the joke was that, again, this puddle was literally this big, and she just had the tip of her fingers in it. And she had basically killed everybody because she wanted to get to this little thing in the road. So this dream really brought home for me how we have behaved here and the sense that we'll be left with when we look back. So it's unfortunate, but hopefully we're getting out of here, and that's that. Anyway, thank you as always for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.